Good morning and welcome to our fourth webinar or presentation, as you might say, from the Ohio EdTech agencies. And we have a presentation by WVIZ's Eric Siler and Michael Edelman. Create a flipped classroom with free iPad and Google Apps. I will be your moderator, reading the questions you might have, and I'll break into Eric's presentation, Michael's presentation, if it's a question they can answer. If it's a technical problem, we've got Amy Palermo from ITSCO right there in the middle that is going to be able to troubleshoot if we have any issues that we can handle outside of your school's network. But right now we'll just get started with Eric and Michael and give them the stage. Let's go.
Okay, great. All right, hello everyone and welcome to create a flipped classroom using free iPad and Google Apps. My name is Eric Siler. I'm the Professional Learning Coordinator at WVIZ PBS Idea Stream in Cleveland. We're one of the several ed techs in Ohio, and just like no matter where you are in Ohio, you'll be able to find professional learning opportunities with your local ed tech agency. We're in Northeast Ohio, so that's where we are. So let me just pull up my presentation here so we can get started. Mike will be joining me for the second half of this. We are both baseball fans, and both being baseball fans, ooh, that looks kind of weird there. There we go. Both being baseball fans, we make the analogy, I'm the starting pitcher and he's the reliever, so he's the closer in that sense. So that's what we are doing with that. So that's our website there, in case you're interested in what we do. And what we're going to do today is I'm just going to give you an overview of the flipped classroom, just to give you the some of the theory behind it. And then Mike's going to talk to you about some practical iPad and Google apps. Normally when I do this presentation, it's usually interactive and I can get some feedback. So feel free to make note of questions that you may have, and that will just help me tailor some of what I say in the presentation. And I have and when I've done this before, I've had various types of listeners. I mean, in the audience, we have people who are never done anything in terms of flipping the classroom, those who have flipped the classroom, and some people who are just thinking about doing it. And oddly enough, we find people that have kind of flipped the classroom in a way, but they really did not realize that they actually flipped the classroom at all. So so that's the interesting thing about that. For me personally, I am currently an adjunct instructor at Cleveland State University, and I teach in the School of Communications. I teach usually one class a semester, a film class a semester. Okay, and when I teach that, I do flip part of my classroom, which I give part of my assignments, in which some students have to watch or screen some type of assignment on their own, and then when they come to class, I give them an activity, and I am able to put them in small groups or in pairs and work with them individually. But I'll talk more about that a little bit later. Let's get started with this. The flipped classroom, what is it? What is it? It's a way for students to learn at different paces. Whether students are working at a slow pace, medium pace, or fast pace, it really helps when students are missing important pieces of information, even from class, and even though they were not present. This works great for students who may be absent because of illness, or have to be out of class because of sports related or club events, if they're missing critical lessons. And this is great for students who are not completing homework fully or correctly, simply because they forgot or they don't know where it is. It can work at most levels, most grade levels, and you have to adapt that. And I'll address that in a little bit. But remember, with the flipped classroom, the responsibility of the learning is in the teacher's. It transfers from the teacher's hands to the student's hands. Okay, and I'll explain that a little bit more. And the face-to-face time for the flip from teacher focus is flip for the flip classroom is from teacher focus to student focus. And the focus of class time is flipped from the lower order to a higher order of thinking. So let's break this down a little bit more. In the flipped classroom, the teacher is spending most of the class time going over problems and not giving students a lot of time to practice on their own with support. Teachers spending many extra hours tutoring and re-explaining to students who didn't get it in class. So that's what we traditionally do. I think I might have said in the flipped classroom. That's the old way of thinking. How we traditionally learned ourselves as teachers. Now we're looking to invoke a new method to make our instruction a lot more meaningful. With this said, let me go ahead and define the flipped classroom. The flipped classroom is the inverse traditional teaching methods, delivering instruction online, outside of class, and moving homework into the classroom. Basically, that's what we're doing. When you hear people say flipped classroom, reverse teaching, they say, I'm not sure what you're actually doing. It's not just an excuse for you to do less work. Actually, we're taking the homework assignment and we are doing it in the classroom where you can be the guide on the side. That's what we are talking about for the flipped classroom. And the instruction is viewed at home. And there's some ways that you can create that instruction that we'll get into a little bit later. Now, with the inversion process, let's look on the left-hand side. We see the traditional classroom. The teacher's role is really the sage on the stage, and there's a lecture today, homework at home. When we flip the classroom, the teacher's role is the guide on the side. We have an activity today in class, and then at home, you would have watched the lecture. And in class, it's a chance for them to actually work on the homework. So we're just really reversing the process. That's all we're doing. There's nothing more magical about it. What gets technical is in how we do it. But before we get into how we do it, let me provide some more information on why this is important and what the benefits of it is. Now I'm looking at the low level of Bloom's taxonomy. Outside of class, at the low level would be there's videos, there's podcasts, articles, website. So that's the low level of it when we have our students doing that. And when we go to the higher level of Bloom's taxonomy, during class time with the teacher and peer discussion, there's that support there. Not only is the teaching engaging with the students and doing the assignment, you have your peers contributing as well too. Yes, it is a collective process in order to make the flipped classroom very successful. And when I talk about what makes it successful, as a teacher, let's look at what flipping enables me to do. It does not enable me. I've heard comments like to sit down and just read the newspaper while your students are doing homework in class or working on lesson plans. No, this enables me to work in 4 key areas I want to highlight. Let's look at the first one. The first area I'm going to highlight is differentiation. And with that, we can work one-on-one with every student in the class every day as they need it. And you can work with individuals in small groups and classes. Imagine when you're teaching in class, when you're doing the traditional lecture, you are really talking to a group of 20, 25, 30 students. In my case, teaching part-time in college, I have up to 60, sometimes 70 students in a class. And it's impossible to be able to have a one-on-one conversation or have a direct interaction with them, even if it's just answering a question. Just think how many times when you're talking to your students in a 45, 50, or a little bit longer period class, they do not hear from you directly unless you call upon them. But when you have them working in groups, the students feel like you're really working with them in individualized ways. But I know some people could say, well, I break my students into groups anyway. I have my students work in pairs. I do that often, so why do I have to go through the trouble of trying to create a lesson at home? Yes, that's a good point. You do not have to go through that trouble, but when you organize it in a systematic way, the students have the ability to really focus and get into that mode of learning. That's the biggest difference right there. Let's move on to the other part of the pie chart in terms of uh, um, flipping. The next part is student support. Students who might not have technology or have parents to help them outside of school now have teachers guiding them and supporting them in class. Imagine, I don't know if any of you have children yourself and who have homework, just think about the times that you need to help them with their homework. And just think, every assignment that you assign your students, more likely they may have to seek additional support for homework. Even though as teachers we say, well, I provide all the information in class, they should pay attention, they should be there. But then again, not all students learn the same way. So with this process, they're getting information straight from the source, straight from the originator of the information that you want them to learn. So the student support is right there. The next part of the pie chart is the class environment. You are able to create a dynamic and engaging and interactive classroom focused on student-to-student interaction. When someone walks into my classroom, or if you walked into a flipped classroom, there should be chatter. There should be a nice electric buzz in the classroom, and where students are engaging and students want to show that they know the information. And some students see it as a challenge to come to class really prepared to engage in the assignment that you give them, because they watched the lecture, they watched the podcast, they watched that they engage in whatever type of media you may have created, or apps or activities you may have created for them to learn outside of the classroom. The last part of the pie chart I want to highlight is the review and remediation. This allows students to revisit concepts that they don't understand in a differentiated environment. Meaning that if you're lecturing in class, if you're teaching a concept in class, it's kind of difficult for the students to say, Mr. Smith, Miss Jones, pause for a second, let me write this down. Or students who are afraid to speak up to say, hey, I did not get that. With this, students are able to rewind, to pause, to review again the information, to read again the information, to look over the clip that you want them to look over things again and again. Pause, rewind, and review again. That's what it enables you to do. Now moving on, the other good thing about it, moving on, is that students receive instant feedback and teachers can spend more time helping students and explaining difficult concepts as well. And that's one of the great things about it when I know I'm working with my students is when I look at the evaluations at the end of the semester, they really appreciate that feedback, that ability to give them information right away. And sometimes for the larger classes, I know we've all done this, we ask students to write something down on a note card or something and pass it in, and I could take your questions that way. But if you're bouncing around to them in small groups or working with them one-on-one, that fear is taken away of speaking up or being embarrassed in front of the entire class of not knowing the information. And with this concept, you don't have to worry about the students being absent or sick. Lessons can be taught to the students that are fast to comprehend. I've seen some cases in which teachers have segmented the flipping activities in the classroom to the high achievers and to the low achievers. The ones that you don't have to worry about, the ones that are not progressing as fast to catch up with the others, because they're learning at different speeds. And you can also have different groups, the groups that have moved on to this part of the assignment and the groups that have lagged behind. I've seen different lessons going on in the classroom at the same time in a flipped environment. It's really dynamic to see it when it actually works. And it also helps if students are getting stuck on homework problems, they're being bored too easily, they're forgetting old materials, and forgetting old materials. This is a great way to do things, especially when you're reviewing for midterms or for final exams. And one thing that you could do is you could focus on being an active and responsible learner. And that's what the students can focus upon. This is really transferring the ownership to them. The students are saying, hey, I need to be prepared in class. I need to watch this assignment. I need to participate in this particular app or whatever it is that you have going on for the students to learn outside of class. I need to be ready for that. And yes, I know there's circumstances in which students always cannot do the lecture or view the activity, but that's when you make accommodations after school or set aside time in class. And again, that's where your different levels of flipping comes into play when you can do that. And students are in charge of their own learning and make their class to help make the class a success. And they see the different students interacting with each other. Some students that get really motivated and they say, hey, I need to be a part of the other group. I need to catch up. I know I had the flu for a few days, but I really want to catch up. And I can catch up because I have all of these lessons that I need to work on my own at home. And it helps them also managing, managing their time and managing their time with the given material as well too. So that's one thing that really helps with that. Now you're asking, okay, all right, Eric, you've told me about this, you convinced me about it. I kind of want to do it. I'm on the fence, but what are these students really doing at home? Are they really looking at my assignment? Did they see me, all day or for a certain part of the day? Do they really want to look at me or listen to me or do us to work at home? Look, you're going to get them homework anyway. So let's construct it in a way, and let's look at what they do at home. And what they do at home, one thing I do is do not assign anything blindly to the students. Do not just tell the students, hey, read this, look at this, watch this, look at this podcast, review this information that I recorded. Just don't do it blindly. It has to be active. And when what you want students to be able to do is to be able to watch or / listen, summarize, and question. Watch / listen, summarize, and question. And when you want them to summarize, you have them do an open summary. Maybe write 5 to 8 sentences about the main points of whatever activity you have them doing. And the guided summary should answer guided questions in a complete sentence. So students are saying, hey, wait a minute, Mr. Siler, you're giving us homework anyway. You told us you can give us homework in class. Well, if you were in class and if I was lecturing, you would be taking notes anyway, wouldn't you? Yes, I would. So, but is this a homework assignment? No, it's really you having class at home. So that's basically what it is. You are basically had them still engaged the same way they were engaged at home, but they can take their time and taking notes. Not everyone takes notes the same way. So you want them to actively do something, not just passively receive the information. And one thing I like to have the students do when I give an activity is I like to have them ask a question. One they don't know and need help answering, and one they do know they can challenge their classmates. And the second part, it gets really exciting when the students really want to challenge each other. Say, we just learned about the quadratic equation. We just learned about Marco Polo. We just learned about compound sentences. And I'm going to pose a question that I find the answer to, but I want to see if other students know it. And some students can be really competitive in an academic sense in which they have a thirst for knowledge. And I've seen that happen before. And it's really interesting, especially if you as a teacher can guide it in a proper manner for them to create a positive and healthy competitive environment with that thirst for learning. So that challenge question is really good. I've seen students go on and do research and find out more information, and you find out that now they begin teaching other students, look, I found this about this and that about that. This is when it originated. This is the root of it and so forth. It's been amazing, and the students are realizing they're grabbing this information from each other, and the student who originated the information is actually learning themselves. So they, in a sense, are getting more information than they would if they did this in class, because they wouldn't have a chance to do these activities as well. So asking a question. So again, do not watch passively. All right, what do the students do in class now? I gave you the theory. Okay, they went home, they did whatever it is you asked them to do. Now in class, what I had them do is I had them review the watch/listen, summarize, and question as a whole class or in small groups. And then we talk about important parts of the concepts based on their summaries. That's what we do. And we ask each other questions, and we discuss the answers and questions in small groups. And I cannot stress that small group more than enough. That is so important. And if you're in a classroom that doesn't have itself conducive to that, find a way to make that happen, to have that small group interaction. Working in isolation is fine at some point, but if you have a flipped classroom and you just pass out a worksheet that they would have done at home, and just say, raise your hand if you have questions, you're not taking full advantage of that at all. So I really stress for you not to just give them something to view and to have them just do a worksheet. So I really stress that you do something a little bit more than that, to have those groups take place. Very, very important. All right, what students do is they can work on practice problems as a group. And that's what they can do, work on it as a group. They can take concept quizzes to prove their understanding of the concept. They can create their own problems and record solutions on video. They can work on activities or projects related to the lesson. They can ask me as a teacher or their peers for help whenever they're stuck. They can rewatch the lessons on videos. They can do a whole number of things. It's up to you what you want them to do. You can structure in a way, but the main thing is you do not want them working isolation. They can do quite a few things just to make this more meaningful. You want them excited to come to class. Oh, I can't wait to come to class to do my homework. When they're riding the bus to school or walking to school, they're saying to each other, hey, did you do your homework at all? It says, no, I did not. No, I did not do my homework. I'm going to do it in class. Oh, you're going to get in trouble if you do your homework in class. No, I'm not going to get in trouble because my teacher told me we can do our homework in class. In fact, we're going to do it as a group. Are you kidding me? I want to be in that class. And that's the excitement that you want to try to create and generate when the flipped classroom is going on. Now, as I wrap up a little bit here, just keep thinking that every student is in a flipped classroom environment is thinking, writing, interacting, reading, listening, speaking every day. Imagine going to a classroom that a classroom in which you have your students doing that. I've been in classes in which I've just done straight lectures, and students are only writing, and students are only reading or only listening. But imagine have them do all of these skills all at once is very, very encouraging and very dynamic with that. And this is what a flipped classroom should look like. You see the students doing their homework and the teacher is popping around helping them, and you see them working in groups. That's what you want. That's the environment that you want, and you need to, if you're serious about it, you want to do something to try to do it, to try to create that environment. Bottom line is, it's not always the right instructional choice. It's only one tool in our toolbox, but it can be a powerful one. Okay, I know you have a lot to worry about with the Common Core and evaluations. There's so much going on that you have to do, and you have the technology in your classroom already. Probably you have interactive whiteboards, you might have iPads or Chromebooks and so forth. It says, why do I have to think about another thing? But it's just a choice. Start out small. Start out maybe with one lesson, maybe one unit, and says, hey, let me try to find on some type of podcast or some type of video, or I might create my own video on this, or some of the things that Michael's going to show you in a minute, and what you can do with this. And so start out small. I don't want anyone starting out really large. And remember that the flipped classroom is about increasing one-on-one time for the students. What's the best use of your face-to-face time with your students? That's the question you should be asking. That's what you want. You want that one-on-one time with them. Instead of calling them up one at a time, you want that one-on-one in a dynamic and engaging environment of the small groups. And students need to be transitioned into this. Do not just go into your classroom tomorrow and say, hey, I heard Eric Siler, and I want to flip my classroom now on Monday. We are flipping the classroom. You're doing this. No, don't do that. And please don't use my name if you decide to do that at all. I'll use Michael Edelman's name, too.
I'm just going to interrupt you, Eric, to give a good chuckle because I know you don't get the audience feedback, but I'm thoroughly enjoying this.
Okay. Oh, good. I'm glad. Okay. Thank you. Yes, let me wrap up this part here. Students need to transition into this, and so don't go on Monday. Just start with baby steps. Just start with one lesson and take some of the ideas that Mike will give you and try to use that and see what happens with it. And don't look at the flipped classroom as a way to get more material covered. Yes, you have more time. You have more time so you can fit in more topics, but it would be better if you covered more things in depth. So just think about that as a way to cover more things in depth, especially if you know something's coming up on a standardized test or something of that nature, and you really know the students need to know this. So this is a great way to try to flip the classroom just so they can do that, especially if they need to know something before they move on to the next area. Using this ideology has the ultimate goal of increasing student understanding and ownership of the content. Ownership is the key word there. That's what it is. That's what you want students to do, is to own their own learning. And this really can carry a long way. And there's no one flip classroom. Take pieces of everything you see and make it work with your students in your classroom. So do not look at your teacher next door, the teacher upstairs or downstairs, to see what they're doing. That's their class. Look at your class, and you know what's going to work best for your class. Do what's best for your students in your classroom. And the flipped classroom is not, I'm just racing through this because I got on a roll here, and Mike is anxious to close.
Take your time, Eric.
Yeah, that's is anxious to close here. I mean, I'm the starting pitcher. I can go beyond 6 innings. I guess I had a couple more days rest. But anyway, the flipped classroom is not a synonym for online videos. It's not about replacing the teachers with videos. It's not about completely online or distance education course. It's not about students working without structure. It's not about students spending the entire class staring at a screen. No, it is not about that. It's about doing the opposite. It's about one-on-one time. Some tips I want to leave you with: change gradually. Use what you have that's available. And just say, if someone says to you, are you flipping your class? Well, yes, I'm doing it in maybe small segments. I tried it out with one unit. I had to use this particular app or watch this particular video, listen to this particular podcast. And in class, we had a really dynamic and engaging time, and I graded them on their homework. And graded them on the homework that they were doing in class. So use the time in class very wisely, and you can be available to your students. So start small when you do it, and with the end of the school year approaching, it might be a good time to try to experiment and tinker with different things as it approaches, and you can make adjustments over the summer. Remember, I want to leave you with this quote: you can be a good teacher and never use technology, and technology won't turn a bad teacher into a good one. However, a good teacher who uses technology well can make great things happen. So this is about making great things happen using technology well. So thank you. So let me show you my face again, but I don't know if you want to see my face again after that interaction that I just had. So let me put me up. So that's me. That's the person that was a little hype. I don't drink coffee, believe it or not.
Thank you, Eric. You are wonderful.
Okay, so here's the closer. Mike, come on in.
Here, sit tight. I want you to help me.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
Scooch.
Sure.
Hi, Mike.
Hello. How is everybody today?
We are doing good, thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, I did pass some notes to Eric as he was presenting, making fun of him a little bit, but that's all in good fun because Eric and I spend ridiculous amounts of time together. Please bear with me while I pull my presentation up. A little bit about myself, though, before we get into this.
You want to share that?
Yeah, please.
Okay.
Are we sharing?
No.
I do spend the majority of my time actually in school buildings, so I kind of understand the challenges that all of you are facing. And I'm glad I walked in on Eric's portion of this when I did, because he brought up a lot of valuable points specific to the skill sets that you are going to be taking advantage of in a flipped environment, and in regards to the new standards. Now, the one thing that I will say is, okay, thanks, Eric. The one thing that I will say is, in this type of instructional approach, you really do take great advantage of the standards in you are efficiently maximizing your time in front of the students. And Eric kind of alluded to this a little bit as I was walking in when he was speaking about taking those lower order skills and housing them in the flipped environment, which then gives you more time to engage students more. And I'm going to go off on a little tangent here, so bear with me for a few seconds before I get back into this. One of the reasons that Ohio adopted the new standards that we're now operating under is because we found through an analysis of our state tests and our student performances at the collegiate level that we as a state, and honestly as a nation, we became very good at assessing and teaching students at low levels of cognition, which doesn't really serve them in the workplace or in the college classroom. The new standards, what they're hoping to do is they're hoping to develop a generation of thinkers and of problem solvers. And what the flipped environment will then do is it'll allow you to foster that type of environment in your own classroom. So my purpose today is I'm going to go through a few apps and web-based services that I've used out in the field, not only to work with teachers as they work with students, but also to work specifically with teachers. So I've kind of battle tested some of these apps through a professional development setting. So I'm going to go through several apps. The apps that I'm going to share with you are all free because I do understand the financial implications of integrating many of these into your classroom settings. So the first group that I'm going to go through are largely focused on the creation of content. As I speak about these apps, though, I am going to highlight how you would share this content or the sharing abilities that these apps do have embedded into the actual program. So Animoto videos, this is one where you can take photos and kind of annotate those photos and create videos with them. I have seen these used very effectively, actually, up here in Northeast Ohio in many science classrooms. The way that we've done that is we've taken photos that illustrate landforms in the neighborhood, and we've created slideshows and videos that illustrate these to support the science standards. One of the reasons that I really like using this is because it builds a level of relevance into the content that you're sharing with your students. So effectively, what you're doing is you're talking about very abstract concepts, abstract landforms that a student might not realize they walk by every single day. For example, around the city of Cleveland, we have a series of metro parks, which probably doesn't come as news to anybody in Ohio. But in those metro parks, many of them were carved out by glaciers, and there's wonderful examples of that geologic activity. And what many of the science teachers here in Northeast Ohio have done using this particular app is they've created annotated slideshows and videos that help to illustrate where these landforms are in the child's community. And again, to me, this is building relevance within the instructional climate. Ask 3 is it's almost like an interactive whiteboard of sorts. It does record. It records visual lessons and problems on a screen, and then you can give feedback, and you can also record your pen strokes. The thing that I like about this is I have used this as a formative assessment with students, and they can do work at home and then send the videos to you to share their thinking. I've used this actually on many occasions in primary classrooms with students who are struggling with number sense, because I can help the teacher, my partner teachers, follow the thinking of the particular students. Again, another nice thing about this is you can archive these videos and share them with parents when appropriate. So again, that goes back to that formative assessment piece and progress monitoring, things of that nature. I have found this to be a particularly valuable one, especially when I was working with students who are struggling and I needed to track their progress. As Eric said earlier, this approach to classroom instruction will enable you to really hit content at the inch wide, mile deep approach rather than vice versa, which is something that we've kind of gotten into the habit of over the past 25 years in the American public education system. Again, you might see a theme here. I do like the interactive whiteboard type of app. This is one I like a little bit more than the one that I just shared with you. And the reason I like this one a little bit more is because of the colors, and I found this one to be a little bit easier to use. Again, you can record your lessons, and you can then archive them and share them. One of the nice things about this one is it does have an interface that will allow you to work with Facebook or Twitter. I'm not sure how many of you are using social media as an instructional tool, but this is a powerful tool that'll help you take advantage of that. The one thing, though, that I would warn you about is if you're sharing these types of videos out into the world through Twitter, be very aware of privacy, and I certainly wouldn't send student work over the web without the proper permissions or honoring your acceptable use policies. Show Me. Now, Show Me is, again, it's another interactive whiteboard. This is one that it has some features that the others don't offer. The one thing that I like about Show Me is as you create your videos and upload them into the what they like to call the Show Me community, you tag your videos, and then you have the opportunity to share with other teachers that are using Show Me. So you do actually end up with a rich library of instructional resources that were created by others. That is actually, I have found that to be very powerful because, as Eric kind of alluded to earlier, there's nothing wrong with stealing in our wonderful field. That said, I will tell you that the free Show Me account that you can register for does have a limit to the amount of videos. I have 15 videos right now in my library, and I'm up against my limit. So I have a choice. Either I can eliminate some of my videos or I can give Show Me some of my dollars, which I'm not really intending to do. But like I said, the powerful thing about Show Me, and the reason that I like Show Me so much, is because it does provide you with access to the work of others in the field. And I will say that the videos that I found, obviously after previewing, but I have found that their library is one that is very reliable, very accurate, and the nice thing is now with the adoption of the Common Core, you know, some people have good things to say about it, some people have bad things to say about it. We're not here to debate their merits, but the one nice thing about that is you now have access to the work of teachers almost nationwide because of those standards. So you can pick, you know, content from Kansas, for instance, and it will align to content here in Ohio. Puppet Pals, this is one that, you know, if you're on the creative side of the spectrum, I personally am not. This is one where you can create animations and audio. I have seen a lot of science teachers using this to illustrate specific cycles. The water cycle is one that I've seen this used very effectively with. Again, you basically create an animation, and you would then illustrate and record audio over top of those animations to create miniature videos. Again, this is something that you can store and play back later through their website, and there are features to share through other modes. Screen Chomp, again, it's a very similar one. You sketch your idea and you can record. Screen Chomp is one that the sharing tools make it very easy to use. I will say, though, that I found some glitches and some bugs in this when I was using it about 6 months ago. However, recently I'm hearing from teachers in the field that they have ironed it out. Stitch, again, this is a video creation type of app. Again, this is one that I have found to be very helpful. You can enhance your video with still frames and with text. One of the nice things about this is you can create them right from an iPhone. And I would argue many of your students and many of you probably have an iPhone in your pocket right now. Myself and some of my colleagues here in Cleveland, we like to argue that our iPhones are one of our most powerful instructional tools, because as we're in the community, we can actually take pictures and recordings of things in the neighborhood that are illustrative of the concepts and the content. Again, going back to my comments about those landforms in Cleveland's metro parks. Teach, again, Teach is one of those one of those apps that give you the opportunity to record audio over top of visual aids, and you can create a number of resources and a library that you can share with your students and with your colleagues. Voicethread is one that's very popular. Voicethread is actually used very heavily at the collegiate level. I will share with you, though, that if you choose to use Voicethread, make sure you have a robust Wi-Fi system. It doesn't work very well on cellular. The nice thing, though, is this is cross-platform. You can go from a Mac to a PC very easily. Bluefire Reader, for those of you who are using ebooks or make use of a lot of PDFs, this is a great way to share that content. While we're talking about PDFs, ck12.org is a great website that will allow you to create text resources for students from an online library that they have available. It's an organization that's out in California, and they have very robust offering. This is an item that I use in a lot of schools that don't have access to text resources. But what the teachers can do is they can go in and they can edit and create what they call flexbooks. Essentially, it's a textbook, and they can download it as an EPUB or a PDF and then share it. But one of the nice things about it is with the illustrations, you can put your own illustrations into that and then drop it into Bluefire Reader. Again, because I do know that I tend to speak quickly, that website is ck12.org, and that is a free resource out of California, and I found it to be very helpful. For those of you, though, that are in the K5, K6 environment, you're going to find that the libraries aren't very appropriate for students of that age, but in the middle school and the high school settings, that is a great resource that I would really encourage you to explore. The Khan Academy, I'm not going to speak a lot about that. We know about the Khan Academy, but they have apps that are available, and they are organized by content area, and they do have very rich resources. And while we're talking about these types of tools, there are the obvious offerings through Google. Again, I'm not going to go into that because they do tend to be the heavy hitters in the field, so to speak, right now, but I do want to draw attention to a few of these particular offerings. First and foremost, I want to point out Talk. Google Talk does allow you to offer non-traditional office hours, so to speak. I have seen educators using this to offer, 45, 50-minute study sessions on Saturdays or in the evenings or whatever their schedule allows. So it does create a 360-degree, 24-hour learning environment. Groups is another one that I want to draw attention to. You can create online discussion groups. From the professional development standpoint, I've used this very often in fostering book talks and things of that nature. So with that said, I do want to thank you for taking your time to visit with us this morning. If there are any questions or anything like that, certainly you know how to get a hold of Eric and myself.
I do have a quick question for you. Let me get my mic down here. We had one of the participants asking for presentation materials. Do y'all have anything I can post on the website?
Yeah, we can get that over to you.
Okay. I'll have that up.
Eric and I will actually I'll share mine with you, Amy, through Google Drive, if that's okay.
Fabulous.
And okay. Eric is standing right next to me.
Do the same thing.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
And I thank you for presentation today. And just remember that if you want a certificate, that code is F as in Frank, C as in California, A as in Apple. FCA, all caps. Has to be all caps. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful afternoon, and I hope to see most of you in the next session.